to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
Hi, Dennis, how you doing?
A lot of speed bump here.
Good.
I don't see much of you anymore.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
What's that?
Yep. It just took the wind out of my sails.
This
on
is
the
just, this is not a
construction.
public meeting. I mean,
Hi, Mr.
public
Michele,
hearing,
how
it's
are
a
you?
public meeting, correct? Yes. Yes, we don't need to read that.
You look pretty good.
Agenda.
Oh, really?
Okay, you guys all set down there?
First time I heard that.
Everybody all set? Carol, you good? Okay, welcome to Templeton Planning Board meeting Tuesday, November 13th, 2018. This meeting is public meeting, not a public hearing, so it's really just for discussion on the topics that are on the agenda. Planning Board, don't quote me exact dates, 2 years ago, is in our quest to bring more business to town, targeted a couple of areas, and this isn't all that's on the agenda tonight, it's actually the whole town. Targeted a couple areas, primarily part of Patriots Road, as well as Baldwinville Road for targeted commercial development, so to speak. And it did not make it. Hey, Charlie. We did do public hearing, what have you, went to town floor. It didn't pass on the town floor for what was believed to be in the eyes of some of the concern for lack of information, even though we did hold our due diligence hearings. And so we are here basically saying, put that behind us and starting over. So we're not really, the board's basically starting with a fresh set of eyes and comments from hopefully some of the residents that are here to find out what you guys do or do not want in your particular neighborhoods, whether it's on one of these streets or not. So that being said, I'm gonna open it up to the board. Does any of the board members have anything to shoot from the hip with right as we speak? Dennis?
Do we have any type of, would be helpful if we had a map to.
I apologize. I have the large ones.
Okay.
Everyone does have the little ones.
Okay,
I
so we could actually see the lots
I don't even have an agenda.
we're talking about.
Am I in your seat, Charlie? I think you got better. Oh, this actually lists parcel numbers. And just so you know, this is a public meeting, not a hearing. So whatever we discuss tonight or decide to bring forward to a public hearing, it'll be earmarked right down to the specific lots and areas. We'll have the public hearing on those targeted areas and then vote to say, bring those forward to town meeting. So tonight's strictly discussion. There's no, oh, I missed it, what have you. So there will be a second shot at it for any public comments, so on and so forth, so. And what is Carol going to get?
The map.
But I think
Is it town map? Okay.
I think
The new one, the draft that they gave, sent us. Remember, for the last.
Just so, let me see what you're referring to. That's the whole town, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the whole town, okay. So I think everybody's familiar with the whole town, so, like I said, this is basically, we're not taking, I know it's listed on some of the parcels there for discussion tonight, but that's all it is, because it's a public meeting, not a hearing. So, so does any of the members want to chime in with anything, and then I'm gonna open up to the audience, because we work for the town, we work for everybody.
Yeah, Kirk,
Christoph?
just to clarify, and I apologize if I'm repeating what you already said, but this is something we brought before town floor and it was rejected?
Certain aspect of what we have right here are, so we're basically just putting that in the past, and this is starting with a new, fresh eyes and requests from the board, the audience, what have you.
And if we put something together, it would go in front of the next town meeting?
We would have a public hearing to discuss it in greater detail.
Yeah.
And then at that point, whether it be target areas that we targeted before, or something on the whole other side of town,
Yeah.
would be addressed at the public hearing, and that will be voted on to be brought to town floor. So tonight is strictly informational and
And
feedback.
When would we potentially get on what's the next town meeting?
Spring town meeting.
Spring
It'd
town.
be annual town meeting, I'm sorry, yeah, annual, which is in the spring.
Okay.
So, is everybody clear on kind of
Yeah, sorry to,
the agenda of tonight? So, anybody from the board wanna, jump out right now before I just turn right to the audience and,
Well, I mean, John, I'll just say that, though,
wait a minute, what, everything else set?
You have this.
it was a request.
Request for that to be read.
and is that a map showing the proposed area?
No.
That's the whole, I gave you maps that were given
That's
to
the
you.
regular map that we
There's
have.
no maps attached here.
We don't
okay.
have, we don't have these maps out.
That's what he said. So I have a letter here from,
In our
please
packet?
have a member read
That was
Oh.
given
into
to you.
record. Okay,
Okay.
I have a
That's perfect.
letter here from a Robert May. It doesn't give an address. The one major issue I have is land being included that is not addressed to either road properties, including are listed as Rice Road, for example. Also, has any written conflict paperwork been submitted by members of the planning board, question mark. At last check, I believe at least a few own property within this zone. If they tell you they won't benefit, then ask them why we need to do it. Okay, Robert May. All right, well, full disclosure was done at the last one, and we haven't even gotten to any parcels as of right now, so that's for the record, okay? All right, anybody else on the board?
My only comment was gonna be, in general, I think we need to find suitable areas within the town, primarily, my thought is on major arteries that kind of go through the town, easy access off of Route 2, to encourage business that's currently there, and to encourage new business.
Okay.
That's my only comment.
Anybody else on the board have anything to say?
I would concur with John on that.
Where's the center?
I mean, I just, you know, I think anything we can do to bring some additional tax revenue in
Two-way.
and get some, money for the town.
Okay, well, that was the whole idea behind the,
Right.
taking the tax burden completely off homeowners. All right, I'm gonna open it up to the audience for right now. First of all, before I even look into the audience, I'm the chairman of the board, I run this meeting, nobody else does. Address the questions to me, Frank. Dennis, please.
I'm sorry.
Don't need the echo, just please, we're talking.
All right, I was just wondering.
That was my vote.
So, I'm the chairman of the board, everybody that wants to talk is gonna be able to be heard. And if I tell you, I've had enough, I've had enough, so let's keep it to point, to properties. Likes, dislikes, that's fine. We're all here to get along, we're doing it for the benefit of the town. As I look up, name, address,
Steve Drury, 18 Drury Lane.
all right,
I'm gonna need a few minutes of your time now.
it's fine.
All right. I'd first like to address the fact that the letter that came to us,
Us,
the people behind me, as well as myself, that was sent to all the abutters. I'm gonna be specific on, as I go through this, okay? Doesn't concur with, what you just explained. Let me find the letter, please, for a second.
the letter states the parcels in question that we discussed at the last public hearing and brought to town floor, correct?
No, it's, this letter was, produced, I believe, by,
Just read the letter if you don't mind.
I'm not gonna go through the, well, I will. Says the Templeton Planning Board Commission will hold a public meeting to hear comments concerning the suggestions on the proposed zoning,
Designated areas?
Designated areas, yeah, for Baldwinville Road, Patriot Road, before taking final action on a warrant article. Now, I just want to stop right there because that's what this is. This is a meeting on the public that you have to hold, as I read from 81.
Just keep reading the letter. Don't quote law according to Steve, please. And I wasn't kidding when I said I'll shut you down. Read the letter.
If you shut me down.
Just
all
read the
right,
letter, please, Steve, okay?
I want
It's
to
a
finish.
public meeting, not a public hearing right now. You need to understand the two,
I
okay?
do. I
So
do.
just read through and
do
don't pick up on
understand the two.
typos, okay? Please, read through.
Well, having said that, I'm gonna move right directly now to conflict of interest. Okay?
Into what?
Conflict of interest of the board bringing forth the question, all right? I happen to know that 4 of you own property on the property, and if you were to exonerate yourselves from the board, there wouldn't be enough for a quorum to move the question. I looked at the disclosures today, and there wasn't any upon this issue. I don't know,
Hang on, I'm gonna stop you right there, okay? I'm gonna stop you right there.
you're gonna stop me.
I'm gonna stop here, I'll call the police department and have you removed. Now listen to what I have to say. We have nothing on the table right now, at all, okay? You're bringing up town meeting facts and statements,
No, I'm not.
okay? So, right now, do you have any concerns for zoning in your area or in the town? Because that's what this is all about. This isn't about you, law according to Steve Drury. I'm not gonna sit here and listen to it.
Well,
So,
you know,
you wanna bring it up to
Mr.
town
Bichetti,
floor, that's fine, okay?
If I may continue.
I'm gonna let you continue. When I say stop, I mean stop, okay? So stick to the reasons why we're all here tonight, okay?
I'm telling you
Don't.
that you cannot bring this question forward.
Okay,
Because
do you have
you have
anything
a
else to add?
conflict of
Because that's
interest.
the end. We're at
I
a
have
public.
the law,
I'm at a
yes,
public-
I do.
I'm
And
at a-
that's a citizen right to perform it and to.
We're at a, listen, you're missing the big picture here. We're at a public meeting right now, a public meeting. This is not a public hearing. This isn't town vote. This is an ethics commission, okay? So you let us handle those issues upon ourselves where we lie, and you worry about yourself. So my question is to you, don't worry about this board, the members, or their ethics, okay? I'm asking you, do you have any concerns in regards to what this meeting is set forth for tonight, which is zoning, unzoning, rezoning, any aspect of the town? Don't worry about myself or Mr. Buckley or anybody else on this board. Let's worry about Steve Drury and what he feels might be best for this town. And that's where I'm gonna leave it. If you track off of that, you're shut down. So go, please.
If
is
you
not an
shut
ethics
me
commission.
down because I'm discussing things, okay?
This is
that
not-
are
this-
of- That are.
Ethics is not up for discussion.
You're
Stick to the
interrupting
point.
me. You're interrupting me.
I know I am.
All right.
Stick to the point.
What do you want to do? You
or
want to
sit
throw
down.
me out? Then throw me out right now.
Stick to the point. What do you
I'm
have on?
going to finish this,
Go
or
ahead.
you're going to throw me out. What do you want to do? You want to throw me out? Throw me out
Okay,
right now.
next member, does anybody else have anything else to say? No, Steve, you know what? I'm gonna ask you one more time. Stick to the point of issue. You're not judge and jury, you're not ethics commission.
I'm trying
Stick
to
to the
bring the
questions I
points.
just asked you.
I'm
Do you
trying to
have
bring
any
the points.
zoning,
I'm trying-
relative zoning change requests that you'd like to see the board pursue for the better of the town? And that's simply simple the question. That's, it can't get simpler than that.
I'll entertain the direction that you want me to go to, but I will want to go back to the quorum issue. All right, so
Well, we have a quorum right now. We're holding a public meeting.
I understand. And I understand the procedure of the board. I read the procedure. Do you want to continue discussing the quorum?
No, I don't want to discuss a quorum. I want to know what your concerns are about the zoning in the town, what this meeting is for tonight.
Right, so you're making the perimeters, and I'm not able to bring out anything forward. You want to set my perimeters, is that correct?
I don't want to listen to any irrelevant information tonight.
Who are you to decide what's relevant? I haven't said anything.
You're talking about
Talk to-
quorums.
that's
The board-
right.
We have a quorum. All
Well-
members are present.
And if 4 of the people own property on on this matter in subdivisions,
What does that have to do with you?
it will have something to do with the question.
I think
Okay, we're missing a big point, so that's what I'm gonna ask you. Do you have, I'm gonna ask you
You
one more.
asked me that
I'm gonna ask
already,
you
and I
one
said
more
it-
time. Do you have any relevant information.
I object.
Whether request
It's
for
relevant, what
zoning
I'm talking
changes
about.
in your neighborhood or anywhere in town or not. Do you have any requests?
As I said, I will entertain what you said, and I'll go a little bit further as to addressing the simplistics of zoning and on Patriot Lane.
That's all I want you to stick to tonight.
Well, you can't tell me what to stick to, but that's all right.
That's all I'm gonna hear, okay? You're wasting
all you're gonna
everybody's
hear.
time. You're wasting everybody's time.
I'm wasting time. I object to your insulting me.
Okay, I tell you what, do you have anything else left? Because I'm gonna move it right to the audience again, okay? Because we're not gonna sit here and
As
listen to
I
this.
said, we, at Drury Lane, we object to the fact that, we were not informed.
You object, no,
through
just
the letter.
stick to your objection. Go ahead. You object to what, Steve? Let's just stay on the point.
We were not informed of what the questions were in the letter sent to us that brought us here today, which is this document that's laid out before us, which is what you said is the questions, all right, that were proposed a year ago, which is the same questions.
Same zones, yeah.
Okay. When the zoning came up, I was one of the outstanding people who came out and discussed this matter and had the zoning as it is today. I would ask the board that no study is prevalent at this point in time anywhere. You have no studies by the town. You say you're acting by the town, but there's no studies or reason to increase highway, in this zoning change. All right, what is it, H?
It wasn't that time, but right now, we may opt for go to commercial or something, but go ahead. Yeah, it was highway
Well,
business.
this is the question that you put, this is why I'm confused, Mr. Machete, because you put this question forth, which is the last question that was at the town meeting, and the letter said that they're taking final, over this meeting, they're taking a final decision
maybe
on what we put forth. And it does say that we can open up, the audience can open up other suggestions.
that's the whole
But
idea.
you seem to be, well, it's not the whole idea, it's part of the whole, you know, it's
Steve,
not.
a suggestion isn't whether or not someone on the board has a conflict. Do you want your property zoning changed? That's a suggestion. If you wanted zoning property changed, 3 doors down from you, on South Road.
Or not at
Those are
all.
the suggestions, or not at all. You can say, I suggest.
I know what I can say.
No, I'm just saying, you can say, I suggest that we don't do this. That's what this meeting's about. If you think that there's a conflict here, whether I own property or anybody else, that's not this, you could take that up with other boards, there's ethics commissions, you could ask lots of questions to, but we're not gonna fight that here.
Right.
That's all, I'm just not
I
gonna,
disagree on your, you're going, may I speak to the fact that he just spoke to? Because in an October meeting, you all discussed this matter with the lawyer, and I would request that I have those documents and decisions of that lawyer, since we paid for it, which had to do with the quorum issue. And that's
Oh, well,
what he's
that's-
talking about.
that's a separate,
Yeah.
no, that's a
see-
separate issue. The quorum issue wasn't about this, that was about when, whether or not if you dismiss yourself or accuse yourself, is there still a quorum? That had nothing to do with the zoning.
No, I don't know what you're referring to. October was what?
I was unable to get the minutes from the 23rd and October 9th because they weren't published, but I can view them on YouTube, except for the September, and it was plain to me. Excuse me for a second. I don't have a colon, so I have to moisten my stuff up. Okay, it was quite clear to me that was the discussion, so I object, or I wanted to clarify that, because that was what I could, and anyone can look at it. So I want to continue on what I feel is, there's no studies that have been done by the town of Templeton to increase any business, highway business, if that's the scheme, and that's really what the scheme is of these two questions, and which would reflect to these two maps. And we disagree with these yellow inferences,
Who's we?
my mother and I.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah. I just
Yeah,
wanted to
just-
know who
Well,
you,
there's
I just wanted to know who you were
No, that's fine.
representing.
We didn't
That's
know
all.
who we was, yeah.
I just wasn't sure.
Okay. I speak for, as the caretaker,
Just
and I'm
asked you.
also I'm a citizen, and I know
I
you
just wanted to know
me.
who we was, that's all.
Okay,
You
so
said
let's
we.
go back to the, your likes or
Drury
dislikes
Lane
of the.
is in the fact that, in this second map, okay,
Yeah,
there's actually, it's a brow type situation in all those properties, and many of the properties that are in this district that you want to change are all residential properties. And we've always stated that we don't want any business-related properties or them to change or them to subdivide into making a bigger business. And more importantly, this little sliver that was right there, this 1 acre property would then be allowed to build a business property or something upon it. And now it's kind of, it gives a bad reflection when there's houses on this side, houses on that side, and houses all along the other
so
side.
you'd like to delete that section is what you're saying?
We would like you to delete that section, and we
That's what we're
actually
here for
had
tonight.
that section deleted before, okay? When we first put this through. And I had stood up for that.
See, now we're
entire-
getting somewhere. That's what we wanted to know. If you want to delete, you want to delete the parcel
Yeah, I don't-
between
I
Drury
don't-
Lane and Patriots Road
Yeah.
is what you're saying?
When we brought this question up, Mr. Machete, we went through the numbers, and I think there's a mistake in the numbers, by the way, because there was the last time. My memory tells me. that there
Parcel
was-
numbers?
Yeah, these numbers, there's
Well,
some
you can
mistake.
disregard all the parcel numbers because this is a fresh hearing, a fresh meeting. We're starting from scratch.
Okay, but they're all questioned, but
I don't know
so
why.
I got confused, so forgive me.
notice should
But
probably have
yes,
said all that,
I
so-
don't know what these numbers are, but that whole section that's in the center there.
Yep.
We don't,
So
we
you'd
don't
like to
want
see
that
it,
to be.
you'd like to see it removed if we go further?
If you
any
go further, yeah, we don't want that.
Okay.
To affect, we want
Everybody
that
know where
to
he's
stay
talking about?
business, to stay
The land
residential.
between, with the sliver in between, the
There's
island,
like
so to
three,
speak.
three houses in that area next to the.
Yeah, they're already
No, you got
built.
it.
The only property that we're speaking to is because I have a water line that goes through my
That
cousin's
island to there.
property, and if you went to business, that could jeopardize it without a doubt, you know.
But you
and
have to,
could sell it.
I mean, keep in mind, so this is, we're starting fresh all over again here. It's not highway business, it's not commercial. Right now, we're just starting over.
Well, all we're saying.
But I want to tell you something as well, and maybe some of the people in the audience might have that concern as well, is that if it goes to, say, commercial, or goes to highway business, or goes to wherever, actually, the reason why I say commercial is because, according to the building commissioner, he says, we better off to go commercial on these parcels than highway business, because highway business is like a lesser of a use, and we're not really gaining anything but wasting everybody's time. So that's something we wanted to bring up, and we will bring that up at the public hearing. This is just a public meeting tonight. But you have to understand too, is that we have guidelines in our rules and regs for commercial, industrial development. They all have lot sizes, building size requirements. So all that is still gonna stay the same. So just give you a hypothetical, if somebody has a half-acre lot, but yet 2 acres is required to build a commercial building or whatever, they wouldn't be able to do it, you know what I'm saying? Because they would still be an undersized lot. So there's a lot that has to go with through building enforcement. But if you're not in the right zone, then of course you can't do it at all. And also too, hang on one second, Dennis. And as far as, just let me answer your question as far as Templeton hasn't done any studies. Well, Templeton has no money. The planning board has no money. We do all this, we don't get paid, but we're all here. We do it just trying to look from our own perspective as far as how do we get more business in the town. Without more commercial properties, you can't get more business in town. It's really that simple when it comes to saying, who's gonna do a study? Do we wanna pay some firm from Los Angeles to come to town and give them 50 grand? What do they know about Templeton? They don't know anything, Templeton. We know more about Templeton, us, yourselves in the audience. If you live here, you know Templeton more than anybody. And so, even if we had the money, I think it would be a hard stretch to, pill to swallow, to spend tens of thousands of dollars to have somebody who doesn't even live, maybe even Massachusetts, come and study what they feel is the best spot for business. We travel the roads every day.
Well, the master plan, I mean, we actually
I mean-
did, and we actually have done some study. With the master plan, we spent the last, 7 years working on the master plan? And that is an aspect of it, that, you know.
I have it.
Yep.
Right.
And I've referred, I don't wanna interrupt you, but go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, so, I mean, that is something that we have looked at in, again, the long-term growth and study and what the town does need.
Okay, so,
Well, if I can continue, because I said I was gonna take some time from you, because I've done a lot of research on this, and I wanna give you the reasons why, Patriot Road down by our way should be really considered, off limits, in the sense,
let me ask you this, from what boundary to what boundary, Steve? I'm just, life according to yourself, just because there's other people in the audience, so I want to get more people's time to speak tonight, okay? So, what areas are you talking about?
and that's why I asked for time. How much time would I have?
Well, it's not all night, so, I mean,
I'm not asking for all night. I done some research on the
that's fine, but you gotta
situations.
keep in mind, though, we're gonna have a public hearing where all this can be brought up. Again, we're trying to get some target areas, and that's why I want more people to speak tonight, okay? So, with that being said, I understand the stretch you're talking about. As far as to enhance business, let me just ask you a question, Steve, if you don't mind. To enhance more business in town, what parcels do you feel would help the town move forward? With that being said, being that all that down there is residential
Well,
with businesses in it,
I
so
can
go ahead.
only answer that with a hypothetical question on the
That's-
fact,
that's
on
fine.
the simpleness of the fact that
Yep.
the stuff that's already apparent, okay, that's the stuff that's already allowable, all right? Has anyone approached you for any of those properties? Has anyone done anything with that? Has anyone approached you on the properties that are being prospective in these things? Is there anyone in line of any of those things, and how would you go about promoting them?
Well,
I mean, it's.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question.
Sure.
The lion's share of those parcels, short of you doing spot zone, you can't just say, there's a business here, so he gets color, this color, because we zone by colors. The majority of all those parcels we talk about have existing businesses on them. We're trying to get them within more compliance. Because right now, we have more pre-existing non-conforming businesses in town, in parcels, in those stretches, that are in residential zones. So we're trying to,
Can I interrupt you?
we're trying to put those zones together and say, if there's already commercial business, whatnot going on in them right now, let's connect the dots and put them together. And that was the board's reasoning behind picking different areas in town that had the heaviest concentration of already pre-existing businesses in them. Dennis?
Can I just offer maybe a compromising suggestion? Considering the fact that majority of the businesses that currently exist are actually on the right-hand side of Route 2A, could we just consider maybe zoning the right-hand side of,
Absolutely.
and
Anything.
leave the left-hand side as it
Absolutely.
exists currently?
Yeah.
Would
I don't
that
have
be
no-
of anything that would be, make you
So
feel
it'd be
better?
the north side of Patriots Road, right? If I get my directions right?
Well, east to west, I guess it would be south, wouldn't it?
I don't know.
I don't know.
We drive north on South Street,
But-
and South Road in this town, so.
If you were going down Patriots Road, if you leave the left-hand
Do it
side
'cause
as
it's
is,
school bag.
and make the right-hand side, rezone the right-hand side as commercial or industrial.
Heading-
Which direction are you coming from?
From
You'd be heading
Templeton
west,
Center
so it was the
to
same side as
Phillipston.
that-
Hooks and
Yeah.
the other side.
And
where
that would
the,
be just a compromise.
I don't feel comfortable about speaking to other people's properties, in the sense of that. I was trying to be
Didn't you
open.
kind of already speak to other people's property when you were talking about the people in that sliver?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's abutting directly to me, okay? When it's abutting directly to us, then it's a different issue.
And if you were on this board, that would
I
be a
think-
direct conflict for you, correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
Because I would
thank
get the way it works in conflicts, frankly, is if you're a juror, all right, and you had any issue at all on sitting and making a judgment, you wouldn't be able to sit and make the judgment if there was any connection, ever. That's how it's looked at as a conflict of interest. My problem, though, is to answer your question, is that it's not fair when someone down the street is running a business that can't get licensed. I know that's been discussed with this board. I know there's several businesses operating without licenses
Which
that
we're
you'd
trying to
love
get
to
them-
license.
We're trying to help them.
I understand what you're doing. I understand that completely, okay? And all I can say to that, okay, is that, I mean, they've even issued certificates to those licenses, to those places. However, that is a tell, okay? It's a tell. And then there's no enforcement to what is. So why I asked for a study wasn't just for the factors of these lots filling up with businesses. I was also asking for external obsolescence. I was also looking at traffic. I was also looking at the fact that people who have families, with children, all these issues, and if you look in your town master plan, I mean, the whole point of zoning was to keep neighborhoods neighborly and neighbors, okay? We weren't supposed to be business and when all of my research and that tells me it's very difficult to sell properties, and there's also tax issues that come up. In other words, the town can grab more tax revenue because of business properties. I understand that, okay? And I also understand, I'm a libertarian. I mean,
All right, listen,
I'm
Steve,
not gonna
listen.
tell people how to live. Let me just finish. I'm gonna tell people all that. But if you wanna sum this situation up, before I go any further, I wanna be clear again.
Listen, I'm not gonna let you go much further. You didn't need to, so why don't we just,
I just want to know, I came here under the respect that this was a meeting before action was going to be taken on this question.
No.
And you're telling me that's not
no,
the
this
case.
is informational only. So we know where you stand right now, and I'm gonna actually make sure you come back to the public hearing,
Yeah,
because that will be when we decide, lots and whatnot, if the board decides to do anything, okay? So, but keep your ears peeled, actually, as a butters, in the butter, I guess you'll get a,
may I say one more
actually,
thing?
technically, you won't, but we'll actually make sure we send you a special invitation.
You will?
We will.
May I say
Okay.
one more thing?
Go ahead.
All right, you only have 5 different zoning situations that you have to deal with, okay? I mean, that C1, whatever it was, it changes the,
Go ahead.
the elbow room, to 100 feet, to 50 feet, from 15 feet to 30 feet. These are perspectives when you're looking at the properties that you're changing, okay? That you have to make sure there's enough room. And that sliver I'm talking about, there's not enough room.
Yeah, so we're gonna worry about it. So, all right, so come back to the public hearing. Thanks for your input. I sincerely mean that, Steve.
I know you do. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Anybody else, please? Just state your name and address.
Sean Flaminio, 5 Brooksville Road.
Okay,
I see my house is on this thing here.
Okay.
That's potential change.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned, while talking with him, about going to commercial, because it'd be more beneficial rather than going to.
Highway business,
I
yeah.
don't know what highway business means. Pretty much most people know what commercial means.
yeah.
So this question directs me. In a couple of years, I can retire. I got a garage in that property. I could potentially, if you were to go to highway business, it would have to be commercial if I wanted to do side work.
Are you on right in the corner, like right on the peak of Brooks Village Road? Okay.
That 30 by 50 garage that's in the
Okay,
back
yeah,
there.
yeah, okay, yeah, all right.
So with that being, with a highway business, if it got that, would I potentially be able to do small jobs out of my garage, or would it need to be commercial?
You have to look into definitions, but I did have a talk with the building commissioner about a month or so ago, and basically told him we were gonna be starting over because whatever, it just didn't work, and from what Steve had said on town floor, not enough people felt they knew about it, what have you, so that's why we just starting over. And, he had said if we're gonna go through the process, we should consider going commercial, or commercial light industrial, or depending on what area we're talking about.
Yeah.
Versus highway business, he goes, cause highway business is so slighted, it's almost like being in village district, he says, so you're not really gonna gain, you're not gonna help the businesses that are already there, cause they're already outside of the, highway business, like usages, whatever.
Right.
So he said they'd still be pre-existing non-conforming, so he says you might as well go the next step, which is a commercial business, which is a better suit and better, attraction for the town and jobs and businesses. Christoph?
Yep, but no matter which zone you're in, we're just talking about what's allowed by right, meaning if it's commercial, then, you know, everything, every kind of business is allowed by right. But in each zoning, you can have things allowed by special permit. So if you're retiring, even if you're in RA2, residential agricultural 2, and you want to work on a couple trucks in your garage, you can apply for a special permit and say, I'd like to do this minor or major home occupation in this spot.
Okay.
And, you know, if you're not putting a macadam lot with 50 cars that you're selling, I mean, there's quite a bit of common sense when it comes down to applying for at-home businesses, and we have quite a good record of looking at favorably on at-home businesses and say, make sure it doesn't hurt the neighborhood, hurt the neighbors, get the neighbors' input and everything, but if we can do it, we try and do it. So,
Okay, good to know, thanks.
yeah, so even if it did end up being, say, a highway business
Well,
and,
please come to the public hearing now.
and it wasn't allowed by, say, right with the highway business, you still would have the opportunity to, you know, have it by special permit.
Now, the hearing you just mentioned, will we get a letter for that too? That it'll be coming, or is that just, you gotta pay attention to see it?
By law, you just need to pay attention, because we're talking as far as whole zoning, it's not lot specific, it's
Right.
basically we're doing strips of it, what have you. But I think that everybody on this list, you guys all got got notices? So I think that's the way they did it, because of the fact that we had, how many did they send out there? There was a lot of parcels in question.
Lori sent them out.
Okay, all right. But, legally, I don't think the board's bound by, but I think maybe they'll do it again if, or at least let Carol know, or somebody in the office know to give you a heads up.
Okay,
Okay,
thanks.
It is on the web.
okay. Gary? No, anyway, Gary?
Oh, yeah, Gary Dupre, 1071 Patriots Road. The first question I have is, for my own sake of understanding, what is the difference between commercial and highway? What is the difference between the two?
The highway business?
Yeah.
We have to look in, does anybody have the
Right
book
here.
here with them?
Here's a book.
The definitions are in there, as far as, it's a usage
show
thing.
you.
That's fine. Is there a place where any of us can get?
Town clerk, they're like, I think $2 for a book.
All right.
Go ahead, Gary.
So that was my first question. The other question is, I'm looking at the map that's in color here. Obviously, like you mentioned earlier, being from Templeton, as long as we've all been from Templeton, we all know who we all are in the immediate circle. I'm affected, obviously, by this. So one of my first questions is, after hearing that this was something that was being debated a year or two ago, and for whatever reason, because I wasn't involved, it was passed, it was denied,
Yeah.
shut down.
Yeah.
What, outside of the obvious, people trying to do what's in the best interest of the town to gain financial profit, what is the real, what has brought this back to the table? Why has this been brought back up and not put to rest? I mean, somebody must see something of great value to.
Mainly it was because we were accused of not being forthcoming and letting the public know when we had our public hearing, but we followed protocol right down we followed it right by the book, the planning board has generally we don't have as many meetings as we used to, because, development is slow these days, but it was just brought up as far as we need to attract more business into towns. We ended up having a public hearing to discuss, what people wanted. The board had discussed it like a meeting like this, no attendance at all. We had the public hearing, no attendance at all, and we just routed out the couple of zones that we thought were the heaviest impacted in town with pre-existing businesses who can't hang a sign. I mean, I'll give you an example, the one across, right by the bridge there, which used to be Phil Demers's place, and I don't even know what they call it now. You got guys working in there, there's businesses running in there. See any signs? No, why? Because we ain't supposed to be here. They try to go get a license, they can't do it. The person that actually bought that parcel,
The guy that came
he's
in
not even from
before us,
town.
he came before us.
He came before, let me tell you, he came to the board I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and we're like, well, you need to get, permits and come in for public hearings, so on and so forth. And he spent so much time fighting the board, zoning went in and went right by him. He missed his grandfathering. Had he just
Okay,
basically,
that was my next question, because a lot of these businesses are pre-existing. They've been on.
pre-existing,
2A for
pre-existing
a
non-conforming,
million
doesn't
years.
matter. It's no different than Hook's Auto Body, he's been there forever.
Right.
There's no harm,
So
no
the
foul.
fact that they can't
But
hang
what-
a sign, we're not able to collect any tax money from these guys?
Because they let their permits
Well,
run out,
like
or
for,
their
like the
licenses
Chetwood,
run
for
out.
example, because it had been closed for, so long.
Over 2 years with no activity,
Right.
so it reverted back to residential, and it wasn't, so I guess somebody had wanted to buy it to put a business back in there, and they couldn't, that's why they ended up tearing it down. Because the person owners are like, well, I guess that's when they had sold it after the fact, but the person wanted to put a business in there. They couldn't, and the person who didn't end up buying said, I don't want a, however big that was, 5,000 square foot dance hall next to my house, I can't do nothing with it, so they tore it down. So there was potential business that had to go bye-bye.
So my next question would be, besides the pre-existing businesses that have been on 2A for a substantial amount of years, as we've all grown up here in town.
Right.
The small dollars that we stand to gain from these little guys by pursuing where you're headed with this, okay? Does anybody up there see anything forthcoming? Is there a big picture that, everybody's eager to get in motion with here so we can get something moving that's gonna be huge?
Well, tell you what, with the exception of Walmart and Home Depot and Lowe's and the big people, that everybody thinks big, it's the small people, like the little repair shop you run out of your garage, and the little guy down the street, I'm not sure if you're permitted or not, but,
What garage are you talking about?
at your residence. But what I'm saying is that it's the
I don't have a
little
garage-
people.
I don't have a garage at my residence that I do repairs
It's the
on.
little people that, like they say, the little guy is the backbone of America, the small businesses and whatnot. We're just trying to look at, like I said, a perfect example, the one at Demer's old place here. Why not put the guy on the map? Why not let him put it on the map?
I'm all for that. I
You know,
get all
and
that.
so we're just
What
trying to
I'm-
connect the
Right,
dots.
but what I'm
I
asking
mean,
is,
quite honestly, I myself,
pursuant, my question is the pursuant of this. Does anybody see anything big and forthcoming with this yellow area that we're eager to?
So, like I
get-
said,
well, you need to understand, so it's like
They
a
won't-
chicken or the egg.
they
No one's
won't
gonna
come.
look- a
They won't
prospective
come if it's
buyer's
not
not gonna
there.
look at a residential zone saying,
And I
what, if
get
I
that,
could change the
but-
zoning in that town, I could put a business there. They don't look at it
John,
that
do you
way.
see anything coming beneficial for yourself
You mean on my property?
in doing, yeah, well, we're abutted, so
Yeah,
that's
no.
my concern. I mean, do you know of something that is brewing where you stand a chance to?
On the record, no.
Right, but other than the fact
not
that.
doing anything
But
yet.
other than the fact he has a sizable tract of land with a commercial business on it in a residential zone, so why not make them commercial?
And the guy across
That's
the
kind of the
street
thought
from me,
process, make
too.
the commercial, commercial, not pre-existing non-conforming forever. That's the thought.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just, Gary, I think that part of this came from the development of the master plan. And when we had all the meetings for the master plan, and we all sat and went through the master plan, the question was asked, how do we bring more business to town? How do we get more tax revenue for the town? That's part of what the master plan was all about. And the answer that we came up with as a board is, we think we need to look at the zoning. That was our answer. So now we're coming to the people and saying, do we want to look at this zoning? I don't know of anything that's on the immediate horizon, but if we don't consider
Don't plan for
changing the zoning, we're not gonna get anybody to even come in and look at it and say, is there a potential here for me to bring my business here? Because right now, it's just too difficult.
And when you sit down and you look at.
Townwide, not
Right.
just, but it's just too difficult townwide. So I think it all came from the development of the master plan, and that's why we're bringing it to everybody, saying, what do you all think about this? Should we move forward with this?
And those few people that came looking for permits or on properties they bought that,
Correct.
that they're expired, the
The-
2-year use by, and so they have.
Because they were vacant properties.
Because they have
too
a
long.
vacant property they spent $400,000 on, they can't run a business out of.
The one down by the bridge.
Yeah, the guy that bought that, he owns the 101 up the other side of your place, Gary, that used the,
Oh, that's the same
storage
guy?
unit.
You're talking about Hank Manty?
Yeah, no, not Hank, he
Across
owns the
from
place
you?
across from me, right?
Right.
But the storage unit up the street from you
Okay.
is the same guy that owns the place by the
Bridge?
by the bridge.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's the same guy. He also owns the storage unit in Gardner. And, you know, he paid big money for that property. Remember when he came in, he couldn't believe that he couldn't.
Just open a commercial
He
business.
was like, I bought a piece of commercial land.
Grandfathering went away.
Not really. Not really. He bought residential
And,
property.
and like I said, I understand the concept of
Yeah.
what you're trying to reach. My question was, does anybody foresee anything big staring you in the face that I
And I think the answer
we'd
is-
all like to kind of know about?
I think the answer to that
Especially
is
me.
no.
We would be, I guess, that would make me happy. We're not aware of anything, the zoning wouldn't allow it in these areas today. You know, but
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere, Gary.
So, I mean, is there any other
You know,
parcels in town? I mean, not even, right now, we've just been focused on Patriots Road, but is there any other parcels in town that somebody would say, hey, what about like this spot? We should concentrate on that and bring it to the voters. I mean, it's not about, it's about everybody, you
We
know?
picked these areas because Baldwinville Road, because of the Route 2 access, Patriots Road, because it runs through. And we originally did it all the way, when we first talked about this, it was all the way
All
from
of 2A.
Gardner.
I personally would love to see 101 to a, we have great highway access through the town of Templeton. And so,
We have
I
3
would-
exits.
right, I would, make all, 1A, 101, 2A, all of that, viable for commercial business to bring something in. We can't sustain the town on just residential, alone. It's
Sure, I get
not
that.
feasible.
So based on that, if you don't mind, if I could interrupt you for a second, based on that, I'm all for this, okay? Perfect example was when everything was going on up the road from me on the Templeton-Phillipston line with that whole mall, before it ended up moving to Athol. That was a great strive, okay? It was, I don't believe that it was gonna affect anybody directly. It was a great location. You talk about getting off of a highway and boom, you're right there.
Exactly.
I personally was all for that, okay? So with that being said, how did that ball get dropped to the point of where we lost such a substantial opportunity right in Templeton that you're looking to grow?
Absolutely.
And it went 3 miles up the road and now
A
they're
A
reaping
lot
all the
of,
benefits.
a lot of residents in town didn't want to look at that roof as out their back window. And you'd be surprised how many people could see the
Say
roof.
that again, John, I'm sorry.
There were a lot of residents in town
Yeah.
that did not want to look at that roof outside their back window.
The whole process actually got held up in DEP is what it did. It got appealed and appealed until, but you gotta keep in mind, it wasn't the same developers that did Appleton.
And the people up in Rice Road and Brandon Avenue.
But you gotta keep in mind too, Gary, that was private development. That wasn't, there was nothing in town as far as a planning board
And
or a
to be
conservation,
honest
no,
with you,
I'm saying there
Kurt,
was no
I'm not
town
even- I'm not
boards.
even interested in the depth,
No,
okay?
there wasn't even
I don't care
no,
about the
there
depth.
wasn't even any town boards that
I'm
held it up.
skimming
It
the
was
surface
actually.
in regards to, we're talking about generating areas for business to bring lucrative profits into the town of Templeton. I'm skimming the top. I'm not into this as deep as you are. My concern right now was the yellow highlighted area. It's pretty significant to where I'm located. So for me, I would have to say, you made a comment earlier about saying whether you would like to see it or you wouldn't like to see it. I personally, 1071 Patriots Road, right within the heart of you,
Right.
I'm not for it. I don't like the idea at all.
So you don't like the idea of doing anything on Patriots Road?
I didn't say on Patriots Road,
I mean,
but-
on your section?
Right, I
How about
mean,
you?
Dennis had made Mr. Rich had made
Oh,
the,
sticking it to that side.
sticking it to that side. The way I see
Lack
it
of
is
better
if-
term,
if,
sorry.
if you're gonna,
Sticking it to that side.
if you're gonna disrupt the world here on Patriots Road, why should we stick to just disrupting one side? You know, that doesn't make any sense
Share the
to me
misery.
whatsoever. And the unfortunate part is the side you decided to maybe roll with is
Yep.
mine.
Quite honest with you, I mean, me right now, just listening to what we have coming in here, we can, I mean, if that's the flavor of the neighborhood, and that's what this is all about, we could scrub 2A altogether. I mean, this is, if we're not getting favorable responses and and there's no love lost, nothing, we're here for the benefit of the town. Is it unfortunate that, me for one, I do disclosure, I own property in all 4 districts in town. I don't need to divulge which ones I own, which ones I don't, but I have 9 pieces of property in town I own. They're all over the place. But if I have a conflict, I'll worry about my own conflict. But I'm in this zone, I could care less if it's in there or not. I mean, it's my house, I have no plan on turning my house to a commercial lot either. But what we don't do is we don't spot zone. In other words, Joe gets yellow and Charlie don't, and we're gonna go to Freddie over here. You can't do that. It's actually illegal to do that. You can turn them into strips and whatnot, but you can't just say, this guy and that guy get different colors. You can't do that. It's illegal. It's called spot zoning. So it's like basically, it's to be a favoritism zone, you know what I mean? You can't do that. And so we have no intentions of doing that. But quite honest with you, right now, unless anybody else, I mean, because we need to have some direction going into the public hearing, do we feel that, do we want to just dismiss Patriots Road rather than try to slug out something that really doesn't matter to?
So my only point is,
Okay, go ahead.
you can dismiss my property, I could care less. There are businesses trying to run on Patriots Road.
I know, and that was where it all started.
That are running today, like Hank Manti, who really isn't running a business. You know, according to,
But isn't there a way to approach that, with these places have been there for, I mean,
Why?
that was Norfolk.
I know which parcel
forklift
you're talking about, but
forever.
aren't they pre-existing non-conforming?
no, because they dropped that license, dropped for law as well. He's working with the town doing something too.
Oh, I didn't know there was something going on.
But
Hang on a minute,
But the
Steve.
same thing with Demarest.
if we chose to scrap it and move in the direction of leaving the zoning as it is,
Yep.
there's also an education process that we could help with. And, you know, if you're the same abutters coming in here with this Manti guy, and he's applying for a major home occupation, like I have a major
can't.
home.
It's a garage only.
Garage only.
The garage only. It's across from John's place. Across from the campground. It's garage
It
only.
was
But it was,
Norfolk forklift.
yeah, but it was abandoned for
Yeah,
so
it
many
used to be no
years.
forklift place.
Yeah. And the guy bought it and was doing Cadillac repairs out of there.
Okay.
That's what you wanna call it.
Cadillac quality, I think, repairs. All right, so did you have a question or something like that, or any concerns, or?
Right now, I'm just listening. The only question that crossed my mind was, how do you expect and by how much do you expect this to reduce the town tax burden?
What zone are you in, if you don't mind me asking? What's your,
I'm on Drury Lane.
on Drury Lane, okay, all right. We don't have a crystal ball. We're definitely not financial wizards when it comes to the town, but majority of the people on this board own businesses. And
And it's not only just like, just the tax revenue, it's also a job, it's a part-time job, it's hopefully, again, maybe they hire a kid, for a small little shop that opens up or something, and they hire 2 or 3 people. It's all of those little factors that kind of go along with keeping a town sustaining and going.
I personally, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I don't feel like, sacrificing my privacy, that I've had for so many years to make sure that somebody's got a job. There's plenty of places out there that are already commercial and employment worthy. They can go get a job there,
The only thing I will say, 2A was the old Route 2. It's not like you guys live out in the middle of the woods. I mean, and that's one of the reasons that we looked at these areas, because it's a highway. I mean, it's not, I live up on Farnsworth Road, out in the
Route
middle of
2 is a
nowhere.
highway, 2A isn't a highway. 2A is a
But
state-maintained road.
It was the
Used
old
to be
Route
the
2.
highway. It's
Just,
not-
Wait, wait.
just, but yes.
Steve, just, we'll sum it up, because I think we're gonna maybe screw up this air, whatever. Go ahead, Steve, you have another question?
I do. I want to answer some of your questions. I want to answer some of this.
Did I ask a
stuff that you
question?
have said. Yeah, well, you've made some statements about Phil Demis's property on the sense that,
Point
when
being,
a
though-
person bought that property, it had already gone by the zoning situation. It was really up to him to look at the
Thank you.
zoning situation. And, whether it was his job to come to the town and say, do I have this? So I don't have any responsibility in the fact of trying to now apply a zoning to complete his idealism, all right?
Okay, this is not.
Now,
Let me
listen,
tell you,
I'm not done.
I don't
You
even
talk
know the
about
guy.
taxes.
I don't even know the guy who owns the thing, but you gotta understand.
Well, I
we-
did, I walked
Listen,
over there and I
But I'm
talked
not,
with him.
but that's just it, we don't wanna put a face or a name with it, we're looking at the zone, we're saying, it's a commercial.
What I'm trying to
Let me
speak
just
to.
finish, Leo, I'm gonna tell you the direction of the board. We're looking at commercial property, we know there's a situation there, we know we have illegal businesses there because they can't come out and run, so we're staring in the face, so you're looking at them all the time, so wouldn't you rather see more viable businesses going
No, on the
versus behind an
contrary,
iron curtain?
absolutely not.
And that's what we're
We-
looking at.
We want the,
We,
and when I speak to we, I already told you this.
your mother and yourself, okay,
All right.
go ahead.
We want you to enforce the current, areas, residential zoning, and we have shown through over 10 years' time that that is not happening. More importantly, you asked the question, and if I may, where else can you go, okay? Well, you can go down through, 68 is completely almost empty. You can go down that way, and, and that's a real functioning highway, and it's all open, and the property's open from the state down, and there's lands on both sides, and you can do lots of things there, and not interfere with
68?
anybody
Where's 68?
whatsoever.
I think he means 202.
You mean 202?
Yeah, TO2, well, I called it 68, I apologize. The other situation too is,
68's already zoned.
it is important to to this concept, which was the master plan, that the concept, as well as the Mass General laws, dictate the fact that it's the inhabitants, us, that matter. Not the businesses and not the town and not the, and you talk about taxes, the equal tax situation for a business is equal to the residents. There is no increase, period. It's the same, but that doesn't mean it won't change. Because you change the zoning, right, then it can change. Ashburnham, other towns, prospective towns are looking into this situation. Listen, I
The
mean,
evaluation is high.
I must insist, okay? Like I said, this is wrong.
Okay, so you're saying scrub what? Scrub
And
2A?
Let me finish if I may. I keep getting interrupted, Kurt, and I understand your nature and mine too. And
I know, so I'm
you
just,
know,
I'm all
so
about the
respectfully-
facts and a little bit faster.
Well, respectfully, we don't want this in, at all, okay? We stood up at it at the town meeting, and by the way, just to correct you, we passed it, so it was passed over. This is why it's being brought up again, okay? And the situation is now you're saying that it's a whole new game. We've discussed some things here, nobody shows up, and I'm fearful that the board thinks that silence is acceptance, just like the IRS. That's not the case, okay? That is not the case. When they did this stuff, and put these zoning out, this was a long deal, a lot of people talked, there was meetings after meetings, so forth. It's just, people get, they get complacent of their own lives, and they forget. You put an ad in the paper, or whatever it might be, it just doesn't reach them, and I gotta tell you, the letters that you sent me said to me that tonight was gonna be a discussion, but it was upon a final decision to bring forth, I quote, a question before the town. And this is why I brought up the quorum, because 4 of you can't do it. And that leaves you with 3, and this board is canceled right then and there.
That's not-
You're wrong on that
You'd be
anyways.
wrong, Steve.
Well,
You
you
would
know
be
what?
wrong.
I'm not wrong, because I have the law right here.
Okay.
But you won't let me show it to
No,
you.
and we're not gonna listen to it tonight. We're not gonna listen to the ethics
I
part, okay?
will tell you this.
Go ahead.
If you go ahead and this isn't what you said, and the paperwork is what it said, right? And you forward this question to the board, the ethics committee will be hearing from me.
That's fine.
Without
Why
a
don't you
doubt.
call him tomorrow? Let's give him a pre-warning, okay? Go ahead.
I will.
Sit down, please. All right. Any other questions? Yeah, did you have something?
No, I'm good.
Are you
I
from?
think I got what you wanna do.
Okay. Actually, we don't even know what we wanna do.
We don't know
right
what we
now.
wanna do, that's why we're here.
We're here for information, you know what I mean? So,
I don't care about Baldwinville Roads, I just care about the Patriots Road.
Okay, so-
I think the idea of scrapping it,
okay, Dennis, go ahead.
There are gonna be people on Baldwinville Road that will feel the same way, pro and con. It's just trying to find a way to mediate between the two sides, to come up with something that benefits the town. And
So,
You're not supposed to benefit the town. The board is not supposed to be for the
whoa,
town.
whoa, 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 whoa,
The
whoa,
law
whoa,
says
whoa,
not
whoa,
to
whoa,
do
whoa,
that.
whoa. Steve,
Well, you won't let me show you.
I don't need an ethics
All right,
lesson
I
from you, okay?
apologize. I apologize.
Send them on down, I'll gladly take them on myself, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Wouldn't be the first time.
That's all I had to say, just to try.
Please direct it to me and not to Mr. Drury. Everybody, all right? You don't run my meeting, I do. Thank you. Jerry, you had something else?
I do. With everything that I said earlier, I'm not looking to create havoc or stress or inconvenience for these business people that are on the street who are trying to do what they do.
No, no.
My question is there a way, or is there something that can be done formally, legally, to
Bring it within more
give these
compliance.
people what it is they need to be able to perform
Yeah, I know.
the business that they're looking to perform? I had my own business over in Baldwinville. It's tough. It's tough in this
Not
area.
easy.
It's cutthroat, okay? And I don't wanna go down that road, so with that being said, I just want it clear, I'm looking out for me. That's all I care about is me, all right? But I do care about the businesses that are lined up on two-way existing. Is there something that we can do to help them to do what they need to survive?
To answer your question, technically, the only ones that, correct me if I'm wrong, the only one that's really
Right now.
affected is the one by the bridge. So I don't know the name, I don't really care. Is Phil's old place. Because Hook's always been there and operating. John's been there. We can't get him to go anywhere. He stays no matter what.
But that would,
Everybody else is actually, I don't know about the garage across from him, that's, I know
There's
there's
something going on there with
activity
Hank, I
going
don't
on
know what
there,
it
but
is.
we can't just pick, so maybe the board's been looking at it on too large of a scale, what have you, and I understand, it all started, Gary, so you know, was so we can bring more within compliance, or at least put everybody in the right zone. Cause like John's, you know, how many acres you have, 100 acres? 70 acres, you know, good business, campground, good reputation, it's residential. You know, we as a town, you know, when the planning board and the town voted for land use zoning in 2006, we had to zone a whole town at once. The town had no land use zoning. We had dimensional zoning, but we had no land use zoning. So people's like, oh, how come you didn't do this? How come you didn't do that? Geez, thanks for your help now. You know what I mean? It wasn't easy looking at every single parcel, trying to think of every single one. That's where all the colors came from. So we've been tweaking it all along, trying to say, oh, this little piece should have been included. And once in a while, you'll see it on town floor, like Harris's parcel, the old Taylor and Cheetah garage in Baldwinville. Somehow that missed the village district. We're like, what? It was supposed to go in, it just didn't get colored. So we went to town meeting and corrected it and sucked them into the zone they should have been. I mean, this is the biggest
So
undertaking we've
There's a good
taken.
point right there, with that area being zoned, village, with all the businesses that are over there,
Yeah.
my old business included,
Right.
why can't we implement something like that onto to cut these guys that are trying to create?
Because it's all one big mass. No, we can't just zone one little guy. It's spot zoning.
And there's lots of
You
restrictions.
can't
in
do
village.
spot
So that
zoning.
guy by the bridge,
You can't like spot.
Kurt,
he can't do any business in there?
Legally, I guess not, because
The one up on the hill.
They
it's
lost
just
it.
a brand new building, well, it's not brand new, it's like 3
Oh, that's a
years old.
different, that's Paul, that's
Paul
somebody else.
Clark?
Yeah.
No, are you talking about the,
I'm talking about Phil Demers's old place, that's
the
all I
little
refer to
garage
it.
on the same
Oh,
side
okay,
as?
alright.
The only thing that's actually grandfathered, pre-existing, is the mini storage over there.
Right.
But the rest of the buildings and the house and whatnot, they're technically in a residential zone. And that's, they lost their grandfathering as far as continuous use, as Gary knows, 2 years. Christoph, you have something to add?
yeah, that's just what I was saying earlier, is that if we did choose to do nothing at this time,
Which we could.
we could, but we're looking at it from a big picture, so we're kind of playing zone. But if you played man and looked at each individual one of those,
Yeah.
there's probably some education opportunities for each one to say like, hey, you're really grandfathered in, just keep an eye on it. And if you sell the property, make sure you educate the person that buys it, how it works. So, from our perspective, yeah, it kind of makes sense. It was mostly business, it's an area, and
So, but I mean, if we're not gonna.
you know, it looks from the big picture that this would be a good area to zone as commercial or highway business. But if that doesn't happen, and if we And if it's not what the town wants
Yeah,
or the
town
neighborhood
don't want it, we
wants,
won't do it.
then we can look at individuals and still trying to help some individuals.
say-
To your point, like, it's not the only way around the mountain. There are a few other
That was
opportunities.
my question. I don't wanna see these guys go through rough times and hard times.
That's right.
And not be able to
And
provide a
neither do
living
us,
for
yeah.
themselves
So
or
they just
their
gotta get a
family.
permit.
But let's say John took a 2-year vacation, he couldn't reopen, and that would go back to just residential land, and you couldn't put anything commercial there. It would just be a residential parcel at that point. So that's the issue with some of these places, that they've been existing, but in the event that they do shut down for the 2-year period, nothing else can go back in there. So it's, this is one of the reasons that I look at this, is saying, how can we make sure long-term, we can kind of keep that like little mixed use, that's kind of always been there. And it is tough when there's certain little, spots in between, and obviously people have built houses and things like that along the way, but,
Okay, so let's,
I mean, there's no vote or anything, we can.
no, this is just, we can just
Yeah.
scrub it entirely, I
When we
mean.
have the public hearing about zoning, we'll hear people's input.
So
and
this is a public meeting, like I said, not a hearing, so if we just say, you know what, it's just, we're not gonna force it on anybody's throats, we just thought it was a good idea, maybe the neighbors and people, I'm glad you guys showed up, because we had nobody, the last round we did, it was like, hey, you know
Those
what?
guys can get permits though to, like, do small business like that guy wanted to.
Well,
You can do
there's-
small
we have
occupational.
in place now, like Christoph had stated, minor home and major home occupation, and that's all within the bylaw book. I'd encourage you guys to grab it from
Yeah,
town
well,
clerk
yeah,
for a couple
yeah,
bucks.
yeah.
It gives the whole thing what you can do, what you can't do,
Mm-hmm.
permit through planning or ZBA, but it gives you the ability to do a mom and pop repair shop, or we got somebody in town that was doing, I think they were doing like wedding engraving glasses in their garage or something like that,
Canoe-
engraving
canoe
company.
guy,
There's
yeah.
things you can do, I mean, it's not like go hide, it's, you can legitimately do them, but it's all spelt out in the bylaws
I'd like to
under
help you. I'd like to
residential.
help you, 'cause the
I'm all
zone-
set, Steve, I don't need your help tonight.
The zoning
You've done
board-
enough.
Well, no, the
I don't
zoning
even know how to
board.
thank you for what you've already
You're
said.
shutting me down because I'm trying to help you, though. You have to understand, that's not right, and I have to speak to that.
I don't need an ethics lesson from
I'm
you.
not
That was the last
asking
help
for
you
ethics
offered.
lessons.
No, thank
Talking
you,
about the
but no
zoning
thank you.
board. I'm talking about people can apply to the zoning board.
Okay, so now we're gonna bring up the, does anybody wanna bring up the Baldwinville Road one here and, or what we were before? I mean, unless anybody else, anybody else have any other zones in town that they're thinking of? Or we-
Did people in Baldwinville get the same letter that we got as far as the properties that
I
you're
think
talking
so,
about?
because George Andrews
Surprised
mentioned it
nobody
to me.
showed up.
Nobody's
I
here,
mean,
so-
to at least hear
There you
what you're
go.
planning or trying
Well,
to work out with. the
Baldwinville is a
people.
lot shorter stretch. It's from, the highway barn to the high school.
Is that what that is? I didn't know
I
where
think it is.
Alexandria had it.
Yeah, that's, this one.
Which I have a conflict in.
Yes, you do.
Oh, no, you got it right.
You're looking at me, so I answered you.
So it's,
I'm
the
glad, no,
highway
you were
barn.
forward
It was
about exonerating
Was
yourself
here.
from it.
Yeah.
There are
High
two
school
people
there,
that
and that's
have it.
Brooks Road right there.
That's my only
Sir?
point.
Greg Griffiths, Sterling, my question is, I was looking at that, map and I noticed that I didn't see Route 2. Why isn't there some contiguousness with Route 2?
Route two's on the map.
They're both on the map.
It's the widest white strip in the.
Oh, okay.
That's Route 2, and it's like, it's full access, in other words, they own, like 500 feet wide or whatever, that's what that
I didn't
represents.
get that.
well, yeah, there's two different, maps in the,
Yeah, I missed that.
Anybody wanna bring up Baldwinville?
I did see the green in the other one.
You gotta bring up something, unless nobody
This
wants
right
to do
here?
anything, I don't believe.
That's Route 2.
Can I ask a question?
This is
Because
our area.
I would like to know the
Drury
answers,
Lane.
all right?
This is Route 2.
Direct it at me.
I'm asking you, Kurt.
All right, go ahead.
You're the chairman.
That's another map.
Respectfully, I believe that the zoning board gives out particular, when, like, for instance, somebody sells a property and it goes past the date and they're not informed, okay? Which is what the scenario was. They can apply to the zoning board, right, for a special permit, right? And, hear me out, they can make they have to go through the process of making a determination, okay? Once they make a determination, then they can bring the process to court, okay? And I have court cases that actually where the zoning board said no, right? But encouraged a yes. And when it went to court, because it was so bizarre, they won, and it was brought back, because you've got a building there, and I agree, you have a building there that can be used for things, and it wasted its time.
I understand, but you gotta understand something too. We're planning, and the zoning enforcement is building commissioner. Like people, I get calls all the time, hey, did you see what so-and-so's doing in his backyard, front yard? I'm not the planning board police.
I understand that.
No, I just tell them, you refer to, I mean, if you have, no, listen, what I refer people, say, call the building department. Because if somebody's digging dirt or doing this or doing that, or it's not, this board doesn't deal with enforcement. We set forth what we have in our rules and regs to say permit, whether it be for stormwater or, you know, subdivision rules and regs, and we try to protect the town as far as making sure there's proper bonds in place and so on and so forth, in peer review, but we're not the planning board police, so I get calls all the time saying, so-and-so's doing such and such. Call the building, call the building commissioner.
Yeah,
No, what I'm saying is that you're reflecting to the ZBA and Superior Court,
Listen,
way over my pay grade, you know how much we make,
I
Steve?
understand
That's
that.
how much we
But
make.
Compassion,
way over my pay grade.
compassion to the ignorance of the town is always a problem, through the complacency that, because they don't know the procedures, they don't understand the process, they don't even they think that if a no is a no, and they don't understand that they can continue.
Okay.
So the problem is, I was bringing it forward so that there is a solution, okay? For those people that you're trying to change everyone else, there is a solution. They could have proceeded,
Okay,
but they
Steve.
failed.
All right, thank you. Thanks for clearing that up. You and your mom,
Oh, thank you.
because you speak as two tonight. All right, anybody else wanna,
I think we'll leave it go now till we schedule a public hearing and,
schedule a public hearing on what? We need something to bring to a public hearing, Dennis.
well,
I'm not gonna go have a public hearing, we have the same, it's the same discussion, it's a respectful
so
discussion.
do you wanna call it,
What I'm saying,
What's on
does
the whole
anybody wanna
idea?
take any other action on anything else that was proposed, whether it be Baldwinville Road or any other parcel in town? This is a public meeting, not a hearing. We're here to discuss. And basically, if we don't come up with something that we wanna discuss at a public, you need to advertise for the public hearing and has to specify what you're going to be discussing.
so you wanna shut down the whole idea, is that what you're saying?
I think Patriots Road right now is a wash. I mean,
Well, we just heard from.
yeah, and that's why the wishes of the.
Well, these are the residents, and they don't want
Right,
it,
this,
so.
this is the voice that came, and we respect, that's the
Government
whole
works for
idea.
those who
I mean,
show up.
There you go, thanks, John. Government works for those who show up.
But I think
Frank?
they've already proved it, because they've already voted it down. The same opportunity.
Right,
All right, so we just shut the whole thing down?
yeah,
The whole
so,
idea, Okay.
I mean, all the way around, I mean, Bones Road, everything, I mean, I don't care, it doesn't matter, it's up to the board, it's up to whoever, you know? There's no representation from Bones Road here, which is too bad, because we don't have any type of,
Apparently, they don't care, they didn't show up.
Why don't,
Christoph?
if we, the board, still think that, you know, as far as town plan, there's good reasons here. I see no reason why not to have a public hearing on the Baldwinville Road and not continue the Patriots Road.
Okay.
It's
Then
a
we'll-
small section. Is there any residences in there? There's
Very few.
There's very few.
Parcel, just for everybody's,
They're not here
you guys
tonight.
wanna hang on, the Baldwinville Road parcel consists of, from the highway barn to the corner of,
Brooks Road.
Brooks Road, which is across from the entrance to
So there's-
the high school.
Is there two, three
So it's,
residences in there?
it goes from,
There's a few.
including the highway barn, I think there's maybe 5 houses in between
Okay.
the
Plus-
parcel.
plus the-
So as far as,
yeah.
so big parcels, there's actually 2 shops in there. You get the highway barn. I don't know, Mr. Aiken owns the parcel, the property now, the big warehouse right there
Yeah.
in the front.
I
Franklin Park, which I happen to own, full
Right.
disclosure. And then we have a couple of residents, and then you have, the old sawmill, is that Davis Sawmill property?
Yeah, that whole
All the
thing.
way to the corner,
Yeah.
so we're looking to make that maybe commercial property for, considering that the lion's share is commercial.
That's not highway, right, that's commercial.
Right now, it's residential.
I understood, but you don't wanna go HB, you wanna go commercial.
I would say commercial based on what the building
Because
commissioner
it's more
said.
opportunity, yeah, it's just picking fly shit out of pepper, I think. if
So,
you do it.
one of the residents has a welding shop in his, behind his residence, and it was that, I think it was Kozakowski's old house, if I'm not mistaken, or in that, I don't know if that house is.
I make a motion that we, if you accept the motion?
Yes.
I make a motion that we continue the public hearing.
No, wait, schedule a public hearing.
Schedule a public hearing on the Baldwinville Road commercial properties only,
Okay.
or proposed zoning change on Baldwinville Road only.
Same map as we have.
Same map as we have, and then we see if we get more interest from those residents, hear from them then, or those
Okay.
property owners, hear from them then. And then even still, if we even do anything with it, it still goes for.
We can either
it
move
still
it forward
goes-
to town floor, or we
or-
can
or- or
cancel it
not.
that
So we're
night.
not committing ourselves to anything, and
Yeah, but where are they tonight?
Well, that's irrelevant, let's move, we can move
No,
forward
where
to
are
a
they
public
tonight?
hearing.
I second.
right, that's why I'm making the motion.
Yeah.
Do you wanna second me?
Joe?
I think John just did.
John just
John
did.
seconded it?
John
Okay. All right, so the motion on the floor is to hold a public hearing, I emphasize hearing, not just meeting, a hearing, to move forward, on the proposed lots on Baldwinville Road to go from, which are currently RA1 to, commercial/industrial, and we can iron that out. I just wanna make sure we can put both in there. We can always change it to public hearing, correct?
Oh, both sides of the road or one side?
No, just
Just that one.
Just like the map shows, Frank. Motion been made and seconded. Does that sound right, the right motion, Christoph?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion on it?
Is it worth the expenditure of the money?
All in favor?
Oh, should we, Dennis did have a question.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Is it worth the expenditure of the money? I don't know. The point you made about
And
not being,
advertise and letter.
they had the opportunity to come tonight and get it, so.
Yes.
I would say yes, I mean,
Yes.
what we talking, a few $100s to find out if the town wants more business? So let's go to town floor,
Oh,
Dennis.
you mean, can we just vote on it tonight?
We can't vote on nothing.
We can't
We
without
can't- we
having
can't-
a
no, no.
public
This is a
hearing.
public
can't.
meeting, this is a public meeting, not a public hearing.
Yeah, there's no vote tonight.
Okay.
but-
So, all in favor of the motion?
all right.
I'll abstain because I have a conflict in the parcel, in the zone. That's all the action we're gonna take tonight then?
I think if they've been interested, they.
Thanks for the input.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I appreciate the board hearing my concerns, I do.
It's easier to hear somebody that's here, Gary, than somebody who's not, and that's what happened in our last round, so this is
Yeah.
perfect example.
Well, I appreciate
nobody showed
everybody's
up.
here.
Like I said,
and
right.
Hearing our concerns and taking it into consideration.
So we're gonna take out the people on Baldwinville Road, they didn't show up, so we're gonna have a public hearing to see what they think. No, I mean, all kidding aside, like John had said, government works for those who show up, so. Steve, Mr. Drury, for the record, the public hearing will consist of Baldwinville Road property
I
only.
said you're gonna give me an invitation.
You will get an invitation, but what I'm telling you is that the Patriots Road will not be on the agenda, because that is not what the board just voted.
I understood, but you
Okay.
still said you would give me an
Good night,
invitation.
gentlemen.
You will get one.
Thanks.
We're gonna have Charlie pick you up.
With his credit card, with his, Christmas card.
Okay, we have minutes.
Yes.
Motion set, Charlie, Dennis, minutes, John. I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second them. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Opposed?
I'm abstaining because I wasn't here.
Okay.
We could
Any new business, kids?
Yeah.
Nope. Yes, John?
Yeah, I have a question, so,
Okay.
I have a question, and conflicts.
Yes.
I thought that the law protects those.
You have to do disclosure, as far as, what I do know is this, Mr. Drury was, I'll say,
I
say
researched
he
the
left,
hell out of
okay.
this a year ago, if you want.
right now there's seven-member board, right?
Yeah.
We have a quorum, all right? If 4 members are in direct conflict and want to abstain, the 3 remaining members can vote and be a 2-to-1, be a majority vote.
Yep, okay.
Which will cover that rule. Christoph?
But in specifically in small-town politics,
Yes.
technically, everything is a conflict.
Correct.
So I can say, well, it's a conflict because I do business with somebody in that strip, or it's a conflict because I bring my kids to school past that road. So so technically.
You need to do a
you
disclosure.
You can still vote. Yeah, you can do a disclosure, but you're still actually supposed to vote, even if you're in a butter.
So I could
because it's a
disclose that
small
I
town.
There's
own that
also
property.
a matter of necessity when it comes to voting in small towns,
That's
because
right.
exactly what Christoph is talking about, because everybody conflicts so much.
Somewhere.
But the,
Somewhere, somehow.
but
And
the
so-
only way the Ethics Commission is gonna get you,
is if you don't do
if
disclosure.
you have a direct monetary gain.
Right.
And so what the gentleman that was sitting in the back was, he was saying like, so, Johnny, do you have Lowe's lined up on the line for
I
a
don't.
sale? If you did, if you had a
If I did, Gary would sell his house with me.
monetary gain,
Believe me, yeah. No, I hear you.
then that's where the conflict is.
Of course.
So really, anytime we feel like there's a conflict, most of the time, we work well together, we say, all right, Frank's gonna abstain, the rest of us can vote.
Right.
Tim's gonna abstain, just so he doesn't piss his neighbors off, the rest of us can vote. But in reality, if we had to, we could all vote, we all could have a potential conflict anywhere in the town of Templeton. It's just, if you're trying to line your own pockets with a direct monetary gain, that's when we stick our own neck out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And just for the record, I know we're still being filmed here, if I was a little, rude, or maybe ruder than should have been with Mr. Drury, I apologize to the board and the public, but, the reasons that I set forth with him is the reasons why, we run the meeting, the audience don't, and I just didn't believe in him being judge and jury tonight on stuff that didn't pertain to the meeting. Okay,
Yeah.
so, public apology if I
No,
get out of hand,
It's fine.
okay? So with that being said, any, motion adjourned,
Motion adjourned.
all in favor?
Second?
Adjourned, thank you.
Thank you.